Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Fallen London. Today we're going to be carrying on with April's exceptional story, Totentanz. And we are about to teach the guests the steps to the Totentanz. The band is ready and the Withered Celebrant beckons. The Totentanz must begin. A hush falls over the guests as the band begins the opening movement of the Totentanz. The Tomb-colonists drift over to the dance floor, murmuring expectantly. The Withered Celebrant, flanked by members of Mr. Wines' staff, takes your hand. "It's time for the final dance," she says, her eyes glittering through her veil. "Remember our preparations. Remember everything I told you. Please reconsider." Mr. Wines claps its hands. Its servants dash around the dance floor, unshuttering the lanterns, releasing a silver glow. Moonlight. You and the Withered Celebrant, hand in hand, step into its cool beams and are cast into deep silver relief. The Withered Celebrant is a quick study. It takes barely a moment to show her the correct position and posture for the start. The Totentanz seems to have been devised with elderly Tomb-colonists in mind. Each step lets the celebrant brace herself against you gracefully, without making either of you miss a beat. It's hard to read her expression in the bright moonlight and stark shadows, but you can make out the glint of her gold-capped canines. "This is awfully maudlin for the final moments of someone like me," she says. "Though how final is still up to you. So I can either dance the true Totentanz. You will dance the true Totentanz and consign the Tomb-colonists, including the Withered Celebrant, their final deaths. Or I can sabotage the Totentanz. You can amend the steps. Such a trivial change will still, surely, alter the outcome of the dance. I think I'm going to dance the true Totentanz." Before you have even completed a full circuit of the dance floor, the Withered Celebrant has mastered the Totentanz. The stiffness of old age abandoning her joints as she gyres with you around the room. "This," she says, exuberantly, "I could get used to." The other Tomb-colonists are not far behind. They mimic you, haltingly at first, but soon dancing the Totentanz as expertly as the seasoned hostess, their ancient limbs loosening as they move faster, more gracefully. As more dancers join in, the moonlight gleams around you. Everything it touches seems falser and flimsier, and yet more familiar, like a play that you've seen many times, becoming aware of its every flaw and artifice. The grand ruin of the dilapidated pavilion is luridly lit theatre set, a backdrop of gilt and fabric that you could tear through. What might you find on the other side? You swing around the dance floor, completing another circuit in the Totentanz. The pavilion flickers like a scene from a magic lantern, bleached of all substance by the torrent of moonlight. It no longer comes from the lamps, but from the moon, low in the sky above. The bandages on the faces of the Tomb-colonists grow damp. Their eyes brim with silver tears. Each sees the lives they would have had on the surface, had their home never fallen. You have fewer years there, lost, but the light catches you too. It draws images to your sight of old friends and your life as the Withered Celebrant whispers urgently in your ear. Let's listen to what she has to say. It's hard to hear with the moonlight streaming through your mind. "You've done it, haven't you? I can feel it the Withered Celebrant says. As you dance, the moonlight reveals the arc of her life, changing with the angle, imperious and youthful, middle-aged and dangerous, a severe old woman with a wicked scar, a pallid corpse. Every incarnation watches you through the Withered Celebrant's veil with an expression of sorrow and defeat. The moonlight fills your mind, thickens your tongue. You cannot respond, even as she leans in to speak again. Around you, the moonlight swells, blotting your sight till your eyes grow accustomed. You are dancing in a garden. The moon hangs low and full overhead. The stars shine innumerably, fiercely, falsely. The garden, in contrast, is solid and earthy. The scent of damp grass is overwhelmed by the redolence of the dusky roses. You swing past stone benches, sculptures that could last lifetimes. The cold moonlight casts the moment in silver. It began before remembering, could continue forever. Your dancing partner corrects your form with a gentle prod, pulling you from your reverie. It wouldn't do to embarrass yourself at the midsummer's fate, and an absent-minded misstep would do just that. You truly must have been dreaming for a brief, mortifying moment. You can't place your partner. Who are they? So we have three options. Could be my foe. How could you have let their guard down? Could be your foe. How could you have let their guard down when they were so close? Your beloved. Your heart drops to think that you could forget what they meant to you, even for a moment. Or your best friend. How could you have forgotten? They've always had your back, even when your own family would have nothing to do with you. Let's go with the beloved. Even now, with their head on your shoulder, you can remember the last time you parted. The ferry sinking, their hand wrenched from your grip. The sound haunts you, the screams, the groans of twisted metal. Leaving London was supposed to be the start of a new life together. Once you heard they might be alive, you spent a decade searching. Here you are at last, together. The moonlight stings your eyes wickedly. You blink back tears, and your dancing partner looks up at you, concerned. The light grows brighter, burning. The pall of artifice descends abruptly. This is not now. This is not here. This is London. You're in London, in the dilapidated pavilion, still dancing with the Withered Celebrant. The band is reaching the crescendo of the Totentanz. The Tomb-colonists struggle to keep up, whirling across the dance floor like wheels spinning off axles. The moonlit shadows cavort across the floor of the pavilion, even as their false and final deaths seize them. With a thump, one couple, then another, collapses to the floor, too weary even to unentangle their limbs. There is a soft sigh, a last exhale. The Withered Celebrant tightly grips your arm. The Totentanz has its hooks in too deep for anyone who can still move to stop dancing. "You were there, you bastard," she says. "I saw in your eyes the empty place, the grim crack paradise to kill us in. I won't do it. I won't go." So we can either reassure her she gave her fellow Tomb-colonists a death, and a peaceful one. Why does she so fear that ending? Or we can confront her. She wanted you to deny the Tomb-colonists the peaceful death they yearn for above all else. To take that from them would be cruel. I'm going to reassure her. Peaceful, she says with a snarl in her voice. Exactly what the priest kings want for me. To die quietly in a place far from them. To leave them to their ugly work with the Tomb-colonists under their thumb. Behind her, the moonlit shadows of her deaths crowd against each other. Consumption, a heart attack, a hail of bullets, a slavering wolf, old age. The Withered Celebrant's fingers close tighter around your arm. I'm not finished, she says. I wasn't supposed to die this way. I was supposed to show them. Her grip loosens. Her body is light in your arms. Mr. Wines' servants somberly collected the Tomb-colonists for burial. Virginia and the Duchess, who'd stayed far from the dance floor, departed after shaking themselves free from the last traces of moonlight. Now the dilapidated pavilion holds only Mr. Wines, savouring a celebratory digestive. The master sweeps over to you, the scent of liquor in its wake. You have performed your task most acceptably. This city's Totentanz is finally over. We shall sleep with our dreams unpestered till the next fall. His hand rests, claw-like, on your shoulder. Come, have a drink with us. The punch is not yet finished. Well, let's have a drink with Mr. Wines. The master seems unusually effusive. What gossip might it divulge in its cups? Mr. Wines stands on the steps of the pavilion, looking out across what was once the dance floor. Those third city pretenders vexed us, it says, to demand that we settle the old agreement, to hold our dreams as collateral. The master slurps the drink in one hand and begins on another. This evening was not the first time we acceded, sating their appetites. One day they will pay for the indignity inflicted on our person. After the Totentanz, the quiet of the Forgotten Quarter is stark. Mr. Wines is unusually content to let it linger. We knew the celebrants' reservations, it says, finishing a bottle out of the depths of its cloak. You did well to ignore them. The business of a master holds more import than a single death. Pay heed to that. It places the bottle next to you. Spirits, advice, and our good graces, ample recompense for your efforts. It is your cue to depart. Really? I've just been paid with some advice and a bottle of strangling absinthe? Masters are cheap, aren't they? You leave the dilapidated pavilion to find the band arguing on a ruined street corner. The Totentanz instruments are in their cases, neatly stacked between the musicians. The attaché case with the sheet music is laid on top. The violinist and the flautist are in the midst of a tense argument. When we played, I could see things, the violinist says, that I wish I hadn't. Not to mention, we just watched it kill a crowd of people. We have to shred the music and smash the instruments. It's too dangerous. The flautist shakes his head. My great-great-great-aunt died tonight. Here, he says. She always put on a brave face before, but I knew she was terrified of what would happen. Then she heard what the Totentanz could do. Her hope nearly broke my heart. She was desperate for this. It does good. The Totentanz can bring relief to those close to a Neethi end, but it has dragged down the lives of many, with years of life ahead of them. Can the pieces of the Totentanz be stored in such a way that they do not cause suffering? Is it worth protecting, even if not? I am going to protect the Totentanz, I feel here, but we do have two options. We can restrain the violinist and protect the Totentanz, give the flautist enough time to escape with the instruments and music, or we can side with the violinist and destroy it. Rush in, grab the instruments while the flautist has his guard down. I'm going to protect it. I feel it has its place. The violinist watches, despairing, as her bandmate flees into the shadows of the Forgotten Quarter, rescued instruments tucked beneath his arms. I don't understand, she says, turning to you. You were here. I saw it take you. You know how powerful it is. She shakes her head. You think you're done with it, and it can't cause you trouble? Some hope. That's not how these things work. She turns to leave. I didn't think I'd be buying the first ticket out of London after a fancy job like that, but here we are. She vanishes into the gloom of the Forgotten Quarter, humming absent-mindedly. It is the melancholy tune of the Totentanz. And here we are, at the epilogue. The Totentanz has finally been completed. Mr. Wines must have successfully spirited the Tomb-colonists' bodies away, because rumours abound as to where the recent influx of Tomb-colonists could have vanished. A secret factory beneath Watchmaker's Hill? A new gang terrorising Spite? A midnight train bound for hell? Only a few speak of the Totentanz, and they do so in fearful tones, to escape the boatman and what comes after, for an even more uncertain fate. Could so many Tomb-colonists have consigned themselves to that? And was our decision the right one? You heard that Mr. Wines sent a special constable after the flautist to retrieve the score and instruments. Where they are now, you cannot tell. The instruments and sheet music persist in making their presence felt. On occasion you hear someone humming the Totentanz, staring up at the neath roof as if they're trying to see through it. One old man is nearly struck by a hansom cab right in front of you. He was saved by a dock worker yanking him out of the way. The old man climbs to his feet and turns bewildered eyes to you. Where's it gone? The moon. It was right there. For a long time, when you dance, it is a struggle not to fall into the rhythms of the Totentanz. Sometimes you dream of a moonlit garden watched over by lying stars. There the music plays forever, and the dancing never stops. A place to fear or to seek. Let's deal with the post. Long after the Totentanz stops echoing in your mind, you receive a package in your lodgings. Someone has sent you a badly labelled parcel. It has come a long way. From the staining, it was clearly soaked and dried at least once, and has been thoroughly battered since. Inside you find an equally abused letter from a Tomb-colonist, a relative of one of those who attended the Totentanz. The writer was too afraid to attend the Totentanz, but they wanted to thank you for seeing her great-grandfather off. The man had accepted his banishment to the Tomb colonies only reluctantly, and spoke often of his life on the surface. The writer expresses her gratitude that her relative escaped the Neath, even if it was in death. She has sent a bottle of her grandfather's favourite airag to be drunk, perhaps in his memory. And we have finished the exceptional story. Thank you very much for watching. I like that a lot. There's a moral choice in that question. It's whether these immortal people should have the choice to not be trapped in their immortality, and I think that's a very important question for Tomb-colonists. And the sheer fact it was the choice of them to come, I suppose the argument there is that the main character that we kind of forced into it, but yeah, the rest of them it seemed like a great idea. But either way, let me know what you think. Let me know if you did anything different in the story. I am interested to hear what other sides, other things can happen. If you sabotaged it, what happens? But Please like, subscribe, let me know what you think. Your comments are greatly appreciated, and as always, I'll see you next time.